Good morning, everyone. Good morning to the students here in the classroom with me, and good morning to those of you online who are joining us for our class this morning with Guy. My name is John. I'll be the host for our session today. If you're new here, our agenda on Sunday mornings is that in a moment, Guy will give a talk that he's prepared for us on the topic that you see listed below on the screen, and that talk usually lasts for about an hour. And then we will take a short break of about 5 minutes and then come back for part 2 of the class, which is an open discussion. Those of us in the room, those of you online have a chance to ask Guy questions about what he presented today. You have a chance to share your thoughts, your own inner work, and together we can help each other understand things just a little more deeply. So a great opportunity, and I hope you'll stay and participate and join us for that as well. During the broadcast, those of you online, please send in your comments and questions in the comment box if you're on Facebook or YouTube. And those of you on GoToWebinar, you can raise your hand and talk directly to Guy as well. And in all of those forums, you can also send us a note if you're having any technical issues, and we'll help you out. Finally, just a reminder for the students in the room, if you have a cell phone, do please check and make sure you've turned it off before we continue. So this morning, here is our topic and the key lesson that Guy has written for our consideration today. The topic is, go beyond this one false belief and bring an end to useless suffering. And here is the key lesson. Having no real direction of its own in this life, a wandering mind is incapable of recognizing the difference between finding the promise of another false purpose to live for and the pit into which it falls as it's tempted to reach for the treasure it imagines it has found there.
I guess that means it's time to get started. Good morning, everyone. And good morning to all of you who are joining us from wherever you are in the world. Whatever day or time it is, I'm glad that you're here. And we are always here. There's always a place and a space provided for any human being who in one way or another wishes that they could make sense of what has been senseless in their life. Make sense out of what has been senseless, not by finding explanations and justifications for all of the pain, the angst, the anxiety, but begin to understand that it has made no sense whatsoever to make sense of all of those pains the way you have been doing so your whole life. The talk this morning is really in 2 parts. I'm going to continue it Wednesday night. We're going to look at the broad strokes of this useless suffering and, in truth, the one false belief that sits behind it. And then we're going to go into some specifics on Wednesday night so that we can work as a group like we do on Wednesday Discoveries and begin to find where it is that these broader ideas that I'm going to present to you today have a direct application to all that takes place in your day-to-day life, so that you can begin to make the changes through your own experience as opposed to trying to live up to some ideal or what you've imagined, which is very much our topic today, your life to be about. You've all heard the expression, as above, so below. You know something about what it means, but I want to enlarge that idea a little bit to set the stage. The idea as above, so below means that here in this world, which is a world of physicality, of relationships between conditions and persons that are all themselves expressions of something that is higher, that everything that takes place here because it first takes place there. Everything that takes place here, all of the things that unfold according to laws that were in existence before the forms manifested them. We are the manifestation of divine principles, and at the same time, asleep to that, we are the manifestation of what you could call not so divine principles. But in particular, what I want to say is this. Ostensibly, if you're not just trying to figure out how to stop suffering, you're here because in some way or another you have felt or seen this idea that there is the possibility of liberation, that I could be someone who doesn't have to keep suffering the same thing every single time, maybe different conditions, but always the same suffering. And so in that manner, woman is born the idea, or they hear about it and are moved accordingly, that it's possible to be liberation. Liberation's possible, moksha, rebirth. And it's very appealing, this idea of liberation, because all of us, though we may not know it so, feel like we are a captive of certain conditions that just seem to be beyond our ken. We just don't seem to understand. What is it that's got me? I want to be a different kind of person. But for the life of me, I can't be a different person, because when the time comes to be different, something else becomes me. I become someone else. I don't know. And yet, latent within me, apparently, is this persona that just pops up just like that when the conditions call for it. So we have this idea of rebirth. And there is, in our mind, if it's there, this idea of a sudden satori, a sudden awakening, so that this awakening is going to be rebirth. I'm going to awaken and I'm going to be reborn. I'm going to see the truth and I'm going to be liberated. And the problem is that human beings do not understand, as above, so below. There is nothing in this world that we see in creation that is moved from its stirring into its new self, from its awakening into rebirth. Between awakening and rebirth, there is death. Nothing is born anew that doesn't first unbecome what it was the moment before. Everything that acts, even in the simplest form of sunlight, on a tree or a branch or a leaf, is acted on, and when it is acted on, the part that has been acted on must go through a change where it can no longer be what it was, so that it might fulfill the purpose of what acted upon it, which is to bring forth into creation a new revelation, a new possibility that didn't exist unless that creature goes through this stirring, this awakening, this unbecoming, or this passage of itself, so that out of the passages of itself, something might pass into this world that is made completely new. This is the great theme. But this is what nobody understands, because we want to drive through the Happy Meal McDonald's of 3 fries and a Coke and a bottle of beer for nothing, or whatever it may be a person imagines their happiness as being. So I want to build this idea into what we've been talking about quite a bit recently, where our life now is the consistent experience of our own creation. I experience every day what I have created. And you may say, no, I didn't create this angst or this anger or this fear that I feel towards this person or this world. But I say that you don't know what you have created because you don't know what lives in you, constantly creating itself in your image, in its image. And until you know what is going on in the dark of yourself, you are subject to all that is manufactured in the dark of yourself, including this idea that somehow or other I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be reborn and there'll be no suffering, no pain, nothing to go through whatsoever, and I'll just be liberated and it'll be grand. And what you see walking around you in this world of phony, baloney, psychotic spiritual teachers are people that cannot wait to sell you that idea. So that I don't have to go through anything, all I have to do is make believe. And that is what this world is presently, a world of make-believe that no one knows is a world of make-believe. So that's first 7 minutes, the opening to this material. Were any of you ever young? Because you don't look like it at all. I swear to God, I rarely see anybody having fun like that all the time. Heavy-hearted, fallen faces, slumped bodies. The ugliness that has overcome humanity is because the spirit has become dwarfed by living in a world of make-believe that never brings about what's promised. And so struggling with the pain of that brings a human being into this deteriorated condition where all they have to call upon is another dream that fails them before it's even formulated. So I asked, were any of you young? I remember when I was young, like when back in the day, God only knows what's happened to this world. This world is done. I'm telling you, it is done. It isn't hopeless because here and there may be a man or a woman who, and yes, like Christ or Buddha or Lao Tse or any of the saints and sages that have graced this planet, bearing on their shoulders what no human being wants to bear so that they can bring into that world the possibility of a man or woman beginning to assume responsibility for what they have allowed to be made in their own image. When I was a kid, it was forts. It's probably not politically correct anymore. Or maybe there was a dollhouse, or maybe there was a tree house that you had. And if you remember any of those things, having all of those things, imagine here's a boy, he's got dad gives him a giant, a big refrigerator box. There was nothing like a refrigerator box when I was growing up. It could be anything that you wanted to make believe it was. For me, it was often a fort. Quite often as not, it was my spaceship. I even put aluminum foil around one side because I wanted to go. Yes or no? And when you're a kid and you're imagining this, you live in a world of make-believe. You see children live in a world of make-believe. And in this instance, just for the sake of the fort or of the spaceship, in order for there to be a spaceship, there has to be an imaginary space traveler. And you'd take an old helmet of some kind, and strap something on it like you were really talking to home base, moon to birth, earth base one. And you'd blast off and you'd have a blast as a kid. Or in your fort, if you're a fort, why do you have a fort? Why does anybody need a fort? Because there's them that's bad out there that wants to come and take over the land that I've staked out here with my fort. And if you are an imaginary warrior, then you are a protector of an imaginary treasure, a position of some kind, yes or no? And if you are in fact an imaginary man with an imaginary treasure, then you will have and need an imaginary enemy to keep all of that going. Because what good is a fort without something to protect yourself from? Yes or no? So if you look at this, what you've got is someone who imagines that they have to protect something, and in order to protect something, they need something to protect it with. And in order to protect it with, you have to make sure that it stays in place. Otherwise, you are in imminent danger of whatever may be out there in the shadowlands outside of your world. Do you see this with me or not? So my imagined security requires an imagined self to make sure it stays in place. You're still with me? You're still happy? Just wait. And then we grow up. Or do we? We outgrow the imagined world where we have to build something in order to protect something, in order to ensure that we are and remain the one who has brought all of this into existence as the imagined conqueror, the one who knows, the one who can do, the one who has become this. And everyone who knows and who thinks they can do and has become this lives in a constant world where everything is never-endingly, through conditions that change without their wish, challenging the fort that they've built, the spaceship that's going to take them to another world, only to find out that they never leave the ground and that there's always something just lurking outside. And it can be anything, can't it? The smallest thing can... I remember when I was a boy, I had this great fort and it rained. Do you know what happens to cardboard in the rain? Then I had to imagine it was a cave. I'm going to tell you a true story. Not my true story, our true story, the true story of humanity. And take it or leave it, I don't care. Not even in the least, whether or not you want to hear what I have to say or what you do with what I tell you. You either know it's true or you don't, and if you don't, this place isn't for you. But if you suspect it, it's up to you to prove to yourself that what is said. You must be the endless skeptic of these ideas. Because without that endless skepticism, which, by the way, should include how skeptical you are about anything that challenges the world that you have made in your own image. Apprentice angel on a tour with senior angel, and ever so quickly they fly by a planet, which I won't name, but you'll suspect it's ours. And as they're circling the globe, looking around, they don't just see all of the hatred and the fear. They don't just see all of the mindless destruction of countries pitting themselves against others, of the endless conflict that's born out of the idea of limited resources that are collected by the few and doled out to the many according to what the many are then grateful for the crumbs that fall from the table of those who are in that position. They can see there's a world of human beings looking out at everyone else and depending on them for something to be given to them so that they might build the next part of their fort or their castle or their spaceship, add another wing to it. And the apprentice angel looks to the senior angel. He says, how could this have happened? What has taken place here? These are beings made in the image of the Almighty. And not just made in the image of the Almighty, but endowed with a certain gift that almost no other species that we know has. They are allowed to know something of the creation that they are a part of. They're not just intended to create their own experience. They're created to experience creation within themselves as a member of the divine life. How does it happen? And the senior angel says, what you're looking at here is what happens when the beings there create a world of make-believe. I don't understand, says the apprentice angel. What do you mean? What happens when they create a world of make-believe? Why in the name of the Almighty would anyone want to make-believe a world that's so full of fear and sorrow and anger? Who would make-believe a world like that? And why would it keep going? The senior angel says, because they make believe it hasn't happened. And they make believe a time will come when it isn't going to happen, even though 10,000 years or more has proven that it always happens to human beings who live in a world of make believe. And then the apprentice says, I don't understand. How is all of this possible? And the senior angel said, all of them save a very tiny few are under the spell of a fallen maker. They are under the spell of a fallen maker. Now, if you're wise, you won't fly off into some fantasy world of Satan falling from the sky and all the rest of the crud that you fill your mind with in order to keep yourself busy thinking about things. What happens to your life every single day when a problem comes along is that what has been made falls. The storm makes the stuff of your life into something soggy, and you've got to prop it up and reconstruct it. So the fallen maker isn't somewhere outside of us, is it? Where is the fallen maker? What is the nature of this fallen maker? Because God help us, if that were the case, and all we were was under the thrall of a fallen maker, how in the world would we ever even have the possibility of awakening to a relationship where we are in fact experiencing moment to moment ourselves as part of that broader divine life, real rebirth? Because what we're talking about here is what happens when a person starts to understand that they keep dealing with their life in the exact same way, believing that dealing with it the same way is going to bring a different result. So take a nice deep breath. Let's make a transition. Let's bring you into it. Ready? What's the first thing that we do when we meet an unwanted moment that we don't know what to do about it? What's the first thing that we do when we meet a moment where we don't know at first what to do about it? What's the first thing we do? Anybody? Resist. Somebody said resist. We make believe we know. I know why you are the way you are. And I've been saying so for 1,000 years, but the problem is I'm still suffering over you. I know why I'm so greedy. I was raised in this kind of life and I had this kind of family and this happened to me, so I know exactly why. Except for one thing. Out of everything that I think I know, which is make-believe, I come up with a make-believe solution. Well, I was a Jew, but now I'm going to become a Christian. I was a good Christian, I loved Christ, but somehow or other I think maybe that Buddha thing will work out because at least there's moksha under a tree someplace. I mistake moksha for milkshake. So I just come up with another belief. And please don't say you don't. What is another belief other than what? Well, I believe that if I did this, that it was going to work out. And then the fort got soggy. The ship crashed. I have to come up with another belief, don't I? Yes or no? So I just make up another belief. Only this belief is much better than the last one. Isn't that true? Because in quotes, wait a minute, what? Hang on, because I learned. What I learned is more subtle ways to make believe that I've known something. Because if I really learn something, I don't have to make believe anything, do I? If I've really learned something, I don't have to make believe anything. Can we bring up the second key lesson, Eric? This is deep. It'll be on the board. You can write it down. It'll be there when they replay this. Please contemplate this. I'm going to spend the rest of the time explaining it. What is not does not exist without first imagined what should be. While what is neither requires nor needs to leave anything to imagination. What is does not exist without having first imagined what should be. Can you see that? This shouldn't be that way. How can it be that this shouldn't be this way unless I first imagined how it should be? So what is not? You shouldn't be this way. There shouldn't go like that. What is not does not exist without having first imagined what should be, while what is neither requires nor leaves anything to imagination. You go outside on a beautiful day, do you have to imagine the beauty? But then I get a hold of myself and I say, well, I want to live in a beauty like this. I'm going to build it. I'm going to make it for myself wherever I go. And the minute that I have imagined how to make that moment that was a gift into something that I can give myself, now I live with the perpetual fear that something's going to undo the conditions that I gave to myself. My make-believe world is always under threat. Wake up, some of you, you're just sitting here. Don't do it to yourself. On Wednesday night, I'm going to prove to you, there is not one negative state that you're in that you are not in a make-believe world, but you don't know it. Every time you feel sorry for yourself, think you don't get it, nothing's happening, this is all wrong. You can't have a negative state like that without being an imagination. And why is it an imagination? I'm getting ahead of myself, it's next Wednesday. Because I can't possibly feel bad about myself with knowing how good I should be and how wise I am. Look at me, I'm a fallen God. No, you're an imagined God who fell in imagination. Back to topic. We believe, we know. That's the first thing that happens when I have a problem. You know what? I'm a terrible person. Yes or no? That's my answer to this problem. I'm just a terrible person. I've been terrible. It looks like I'm going to stay terrible. Now, is that what is, or is that what is not? It's not what is. I'm an imagination. But it feels so real, and listen to this, and so good, because it's so familiar to me. I love being in my fortress of solitude, in my fortress of suffering. But do you think you love being in the fortress of suffering? No, of course not. Why? Because I'm the fortress of suffering. I wouldn't be suffering in the fortress if I wasn't being attacked. If life wasn't doing what it was doing, I couldn't possibly be this kind of ugly human being at this moment. So it's not my ugliness, it's the world that's drawing this out of me as a necessity to ensure that I keep in place the very conditions, by the way, that are producing this suffering. Yes or no? And out of the chaos of those reactions, when we think we know what happens, what comes out of all of those associated thoughts? What comes out of that? I just imagine something from my past that will guide me into a future where I won't suffer from a soggy fort. Yes or no? That's in spite of the fact that no matter how many times I make believe that that's never going to happen, it just keeps happening, doesn't it? And why is that? Why is that? Because I don't know I'm asleep. The last thing that occurs to a person when they're suffering is that they're in a dream. Because the dream makes everything that has been imagined real. Take a nice deep breath. We're going to look at something. I hope that you'll hear it. So out of all this, I have all these plans, solutions. I have all the reasons in the world. I have all the reasons in the world why I must endure some kind of daily pain. Do you not have all the reasons in the world why you must endure some daily pain? Well, let me ask you this question. How many of you endure some kind of daily pain? And if I endure some kind of daily pain every day, then there must be reasons for it, mustn't there? I feel like this, I don't like that, what am I going to do with this? Oh my God, more of this, no, not more of that. Now, when that happens, I never think to myself that I must have a reason why I'm in pain. I'm in pain, there has to be reasons. Yes or no, please? And so, with my reasons, it never dawns on me, because I'm so identified with them, that these can't possibly be my own reasons. These can't be my own. Look, would you give yourself reasons why every day you suffer because people are the way they are? Would you give yourself reasons why you're always feeling like you're going to lose something or something being taken from you? Would you? Would you give yourself reasons why you feel inadequate all day long when you can't separate the ruined life from the reasons behind it? None of those reasons that you have for why you feel the way you do are your own. Not one of them. You're born into a world. A student asked on Wednesday night, what does it, our Inside Timer, what does it mean to be conditioned? I'm explaining it to you. Condition means that when some kind of pain comes along, I already believe I know what it's about, then I know what to do about it, and then I have the reasons for me to do the things I do to save me from that suffering. That's called conditioning, because there's nothing intelligent in any of that that can see I must be out of my mind to sit here and justify feeling so full of hatred, anger, or fear. I must be out of my mind to blame another human being. To have a reason why I'm suffering is an act of insanity. Why is it an act of insanity? Because every reason you give yourself isn't your own. No reason you give yourself solves anything, and every reason you give yourself ensures that you remain someone who believes the world that is made in your image, the make-believe world, must be protected. And the funny thing is, that's why I say a fallen maker, we inherited these reasons. I watched my mother and father die under the weight of them. They watched their mother and father die under the weight of them, and every mother and father saying, this will be better, you'll be a better person, you'll come out of this, you'll achieve things I didn't achieve. Just go get it, son. Here's the reasons why you need to have $1 million. Here's the reasons why people have to approve of you. Here's the reason why you must always look like you're something special. Here's your reasons, son. The sins of the father are visited 7 generations. Because it's passed on. It is, and you don't know it. See, that's why people who like these ideas really relish them, because at last it begins to make sense. And people who hate these ideas hate them because they want to live in their world of make-believe. They want to swallow the blue pill instead of the red one, or whatever that thing was in the Matrix. I don't know who I would be without my reasons for why I feel the way I do. Do you? Do you? Do you understand? Part of the makeup of my life is inseparable for the reasons I have for living. And the reasons I have for living aren't my own reasons, because it's unreasonable to think that I would live to suffer. And I may say, well, most of the time I don't suffer, but I have no control over the conditions when they do come up. So therefore, what I am is someone who's always looking to see if the conditions are going to change and what I have to do to protect the fort, build a box over the box, which is what human beings call a successful human being. Layer upon layer upon layer of insulation between what insults what the world they have made in their own image. Isn't it? You can only look at yourself. I don't have enough. I need a little more. And what do I need a little more of? I need a little more of insulation so that my fort doesn't get wet when it rains. But every fort that I build is made of the same stuff, and what it's made out of is make-believe. And every make-believe fort, every make-believe life has to collapse. Now, what is it that we're talking about? What's the solution? If my solution is to become someone who is safer, more secure, more confident in myself, and every one of those solutions proves to be the source of my next suffering, then those clearly aren't solutions. Becoming cannot be a solution. Please, do you see it? Because the suffering is inherent in the idea of becoming. And the reason I have to constantly become something is because whatever I became no longer holds water. So I just have to go through the iteration again and again, and I always have reasons why. Long before, I believe it was Walt Whitman said, the central urge in every atom is to return to its divine source. Long before he said that, long time before, probably 2,000 years, Christ said the same thing. Did you know that? It was in the parable of the prodigal son, which is a story about a young man who was not happy where he was and imagined that he could go out into the world and in the world become what he imagined would make him whole and happy. So his reasons for leaving was that he could see and desire and imagine a time and a place where he wouldn't be dependent on anything like dad, but instead I'd be a self-made man. Do you understand? The fallen maker has made us believe, we consent to it, that I have to be a self-made man. What is a self-made man? Someone that everyone looks up to. And who looks up to that self-made man? Men and women who want to be self-made. But they don't know that the self-made man sits at home and can't stand the fact that he doesn't know what to do with his life other than make another self out of it. So it's just this parade of painful thoughts and feelings that never leave the man alone, unless by some grace, and even that, if he is really truly that, he'll learn from it, unless he really loves something. And when you really love something, it isn't you that makes you a self. It is love that allows you to discover the self that put that love in you, which is a totally different order of things. So the outward leg of the prodigal son was what? All about becoming. Yes or no? Central urge, every atom return to its divine source. So the outward leg, becoming. I'm gonna go, I'm gonna get, people are gonna look at me, I'm gonna walk in the temple, they're gonna throw their shekels in front of me, they're gonna put palm branches down wherever I go, it's gonna be beautiful. And then he finds himself without any food to eat at all. He wishes he had the food the pigs had. And when that happens, something happens inside of him, doesn't it? He has a sudden remembrance. The Adam, the Adamic nature, the Adam, the true, feels a call. And what is the second leg of this journey if the outward leg is becoming? Unbecoming. Not becoming something that's unbecoming. That's what happens on the becoming side. We become very unbecoming. No, the unbecoming. Everything has to be undone. My whole world. Everything I hope and believe in, because what I hope and believe in is what's made believe. Everything I think is going to save me downstream has to go. Why? Because I keep saving myself in a world of make-believe. Because I don't know that my suffering is born of make-believing. I keep make-believing that I can save myself from it. Unbecoming. And you see, the indwelling Christ, the true Buddha, all these stories are the same. You look at them. That's a story of unbecoming. Unless you lose your life, you will not find it. Unless a kernel of corn sits in the ground by itself, abiding alone, it shall not bear fruit. It won't be reborn. So prior to, here I am, I'm out, becoming, and I wake up a little bit. Oh my God, I'm still a fruitcake. What am I going to do? Well, I can't keep adding nuts. I mean, if you really think, if I add nuts to myself, I bring nuts into my life. I eat nutty ideas. I pay ridiculous sums of money to psychopathic gurus who promise me that it's okay. The journey of becoming has a happy ending. Just give me your money, I'll have the ending, and you'll end unhappy. And that guru is a monster. That teacher is a monster. Anybody who promises you there is some direct path from awakening to rebirth is a monster. The truth is that between awakening and rebirth, there is unbecoming. Because it is this unbecoming, it is this passage of this fallen maker that you and I have fallen under the thrall of that finally liberates us from the illusion that we need to make believe anything in order to be a true human being. We're just taught it from the very start, are we not? So the outward journey becoming the inward, the return leg. Now, you read that his father, seeing him at a great distance, met him halfway. So first, the father was never disconnected from the son. Because in the truth, the son, the Adam, was drawn right back to the father and never was separated from the father. But if you go far enough out into that world, then you are, in fact, separated. This is what weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth is. That's what they call it. It is an outer darkness. It is actually a kingdom. And it is a kingdom that is the full degradation and the complete fall of an individual into the world of imagination. Because underneath imagination, there is absolutely no escape. Underneath imagination, you can't even know that you're imagining anymore. You're just gone. And believe me, that is a possibility. So, what was the journey like for the prodigal son on the way back? What was it like? Have I lost my mind? How do I even know that he's gonna see me and say, "Get out of here, you bum. Look what you did. You squandered everything I gave you. You're a wreck. You're a mess. You hurt people. You've been a monster. Get away from me." Because that's what you say to yourself when these thoughts and feelings come about coming home and rebirth. Well, I'm hopeless. There's not a chance for me. I'm the most selfish human. How many of you at least suspect that you are the most selfish human being on the planet? And you must see it one day, only so you can understand there's no selfish individual. There is a fallen maker who makes everything in his own image so he can cling to it, and it's never enough. Everybody still alive out there? I want to go through an iteration with you. I spent too much time setting it up, but I want to show you now with your mind what you must begin to see with your heart and with the rest of you. All the great teachings, we've just iterated it, have to do what? One must lose their life. This world is a world of suffering. The only way you bring an end to the suffering is through understanding the nature of desire, blah, 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 blah. Sell all, yes or no? So there's 7 points I'm going to make. I'm going to ask you to help me a little bit, if we have time so we can go through it. First, can you see there is no suffering without unconscious desire? There is no suffering without unconscious desire. We've been looking at that. What do I suffer over? I suffer over what I want. And then I get what I want, but then something comes along and I don't get what I want anymore, and I suffer. So first I suffer over what I want, believing that that's a good reason, and then I suffer over something that I don't want because it's taking from me what I made, what I became. Yes or no? No suffering without unconscious desire. This is what Buddha was alluding to with the Four Noble Truths, by the way. There is no unconscious desire without imagination. There is no unconscious desire without imagination. What do you desire? Where do you find what you desire? You say, well, no, I found what I desire. I was walking down the street. I saw that brand new Porsche. All I've got is a Mercedes-Benz. There is no unconscious desire without imagination. Why? Because it isn't seeing that thing that makes me desire it. What makes me desire it is that I know who I'll be if people see me driving around in a Porsche and not that lousy Mercedes-Benz that I drive. Yes or no? No unconscious desire without imagination. Still, everybody? No imagination without something wanted or not wanted to imagine. No imagination without something wanted or not wanted to imagine. Where does the whole idea of this imagination gain itself from? I'm lacking. I don't have what I need. But if I got what I needed, it'd be great. But of course, when I get what I needed, I thought I needed, then something comes and now I don't want that, I want something else. No imagination without something wanted or not wanted to imagine. We're keeping going. No imagination without identification with what's imagined as being missing. No imagination without identification with what's being imagined as missing. Listen to this, please. There can't be something imagined without someone who's imagined it. Can there? There cannot be something imagined without moi, without me having imagined it. So what is imagined and the identity are singularity. They're one thing. They don't seem like one thing, do they? No, it seems like I am imagining this, and then when I get that, which is different than me, then I will be a whole human being. No imagination without identification as to I need this or I don't want that. Next, nothing imagined goes missing without a sense of self in need of it. Nothing imagined goes missing without a sense of self in need of it. When do I suddenly feel like something's being taken from my life? When suddenly something seems to come along and take it from me. And why is that painful? Because I was identified with it. I'm building these steps, if you can see it. So suddenly I feel like something's threatening my fort. Something's missing. The security I had, it's gone. Where did it go? It never existed. It was imagined. Because if it was real, it couldn't go away, could it? No incomplete sense of self without the time needed to close the distance between him and what he imagines. There is no incomplete sense of self that exists without time. I have to have time. I have to have time. I need time to wake up. I need time to get a little more. I need time to get away. I need time to resolve this. I need time to get you straightened out. I need time. Time for what? Time for me to become myself as I imagine I'll be when I get and close the distance between who I am and what I have to have in order to be me. Time is the distance imagined between the self that thinks it's missing something and what it imagines is missing. That's what time is. And it only exists in a world where a fallen maker must make time so that it can make for itself a world where it will one day be complete. Are you following this? I know I'm giving you a lot. We'll go into more depth Wednesday night, but I want you to see it. So here I am. If I have to close the distance, then that means that I'm on a journey. Because apparently I'm not where I need to be. I'm not happy. I'm angry. I'm frightened. I'm worried. I'm insecure. I'm on a journey. Oh, thank God I'm on a journey. Because as long as I've got a journey I can be on, then there's always the promise that I'll close the gap between the pain I'm in and the promise of the temptation that I won't have to go through that again. Yes or no? I'm on a journey. And when I'm on a journey, what happens to me when I'm on a journey? The journey is filled with promises and pitfalls, aren't they? Every journey. Whoa, because that's what the journey is, the promise. But in the promise is the pitfall, isn't it? So now suddenly I'm filled with imagined victories and defeats. How many of you have had a lot of imagined victories? And then it was stolen from me. It was taken out of my hands. I was so sharp at that dinner party until I spilled that wine on my husband's shirt. Whatever it might be, my imagined victories always turn into defeats because passing time ensures that what is make-believe is revealed as being such. That's the grace of what is timeless, the revelation of all that is made believe in time. But we don't see it as that, do we? Let me keep going. So here's my journey, filled with imaginary victories and losses, And every one of those imaginary victories and losses does what? Every time I have an imaginary victory, is it enough? Nope, need a little more. Every time I have an imagined loss, is it enough? Yeah, it's enough. I don't want that anymore. And I'm led right back to where I started, which is with imaginary suffering that gives rise to unconscious desires. And if you follow those steps, you'll see I just described in words the fallen maker and all of its activity. And how do I know it? To whatever extent, how many of you suspect what I'm saying is true? How do you know that? The light dwelleth in the fallen maker, and the fallen maker doesn't know what to make of it. The darkness, this unconscious nature, this unregenerative, unrepentive nature. I bring you back to this first thing I said. What's the first thing we do when we meet an unwanted moment? I consult the fallen maker. Yes or no? Fallen maker says, oh no, 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 no. I go, thank God you're here to protect me. Is that unconscious nature here to protect me? Or is the unconscious nature what I need to awaken to? I don't need to protect myself. You must understand that. This fallen maker has convinced you, you must protect yourself from it. Does light need to protect itself from the darkness? Does love need to protect itself from hatred? Or is the presence of light the absence of darkness? Darkness doesn't exist where there's light. Hatred can't exist where there's love. But part of the fallen nature says, yeah, but I'm there, but the rest of the world, they're not. And so the fallen maker creates a journey for you to lift all of humanity from its dregs. And so I believe I know what's happened. I have reasons now. I know what the solutions are, in spite of the fact that for all of the iterations of every one of those cycles, not one thing has changed. Not one thing has changed. Except for what? The new reasons we have why we're in that pain. Now, if you're following me, and I hope you are, what do you think this leads us to? Because we're getting to the exercise part. What do you think it leads us to? What does the boy do when his fort gets soggy? Looks for another box. He reconstructs the collapsing fort. The collapsing life is reconstructed by a make-believe life that is responsible for the collapse of everything it creates in time. The truth is, if I'm identified at all with anything in time, I'm already living in this fallen kingdom. Let me read to you Marcus Aurelius, beautiful awakened individual. He says, and it's kind of our exercise. You ready? Say nothing more to yourself than what the first appearances report. Suppose that it has been reported to you that a certain person speaks ill of you. This has been reported, but that you have been injured has not been reported. Thus, then always abide by first appearances and add nothing from yourself, and then nothing hurtful happens to you. Anything you add to the moment of revelation is make-believe. Anything you add to the moment where suddenly this resistance is there, suddenly I'm in this pain, I'm drawn back into the path. Anything that you add to the moment where the content of your own consciousness has been revealed for the purpose of this revelation, anything you add to it is a buffer between you that would reveal that and you that could be healed by it. Make believe. Now, Do you remember growing up, back to the start? When I was a kid, I was sure that in the darkness, there was at least one werewolf. Because when I was a kid, I saw the Werewolf of London. It scared the living bejeebies out of me. And every time I would look in the dark, I would see this, this face start to morph into this monster. And I even could hear the growling in the dark. Now, is there a monster in the darkness? Is there? See, you think there is. The monster is the darkness unattended to by the light. Because in the darkness unattended by the light is the make-believe identity that must come into existence so it can become someone who's afraid, it can become someone who's worried, it can become someone who's going to conquer the monsters. Say nothing more to yourself than what first appearances report. If you do that, what you will discover is that the fallen maker never stops talking to you to bring you into its world. And it does it with pitchforks. Do you know why the image of the pitchfork came about? It wasn't because some farmer, because there's a poke, isn't there? There's a sudden stab, a sudden, oh my God. Feel the jab. And then don't go into make-believe that you know what that pain is about. You cannot know what the pain is about because it exists out of make-believe. Anything you tell yourself about the nature of that pain belongs to the fallen maker. Make that clear to yourself, and you will start this process like the prodigal son of unbecoming. Because I become through imagination. My past has the pain of it because of imagination. My future is fearful because of imagination. I don't have enough because of imagination. I must go through this unbecoming. The whole talk. God, and you know, when you understand this to some extent, there will be a ceaseless prayer on your tongue that you will never have to utter. God help me. I cannot go back into make-believe. I cannot go back into the suffering born out of make-believe. I cannot go back into the suffering because the suffering exists because of make-believe. So why would I go into make-believe that produced the suffering in order to bring an end to it? I must simply unbecome. All that has been made in me that I have identified with and given life to through misunderstanding that my identity is not a make-believe one, but that believing it is, I suffer from it. I have to let it all be undone. This is the collapse of the haunted house. This is the beginning of the end of living an unawakened life, being awakened by a problem and then going into a dream in order to solve it. It's the collapse of the consciousness that has never stopped continuing itself at the cost of the being on this planet, of our being that is being destroyed and corrupted by a make-believe world with a make-believe self that cannot save itself. And the more you know that, the more you will enter into this unbecoming, where you will find out as the result of it, you never needed to be saved. You were saved in the beginning. You must find that out for yourself. Let's take a break. We'll come back and have our dialogue.
Welcome back, everyone. Before we begin the second half of class, our question and answer period with Guy, as we're getting settled, I have a couple of announcements for us all. The first of which is, as always, a reminder to you that the Life of Learning Foundation sponsors this free online series of classes, and we are a nonprofit organization. And so we depend upon help and donations from those of you such as yourself, who help us often throughout the year. And periodically, we also like to offer in exchange something that you can receive directly as a result of your donations. And this month, we have been advertising a particular product that we call To Touch the Timeless Mind. This is a two-part audio program based upon a talk that Guy gave in the past. And if you make a donation of $10 or more, you can receive this downloadable audio program, and we encourage you to do so. Just go to guyfinley.org/timeless, and that will get you signed up for that offer. And we have been offering that, and we'll continue to offer it through the end of this month. So I hope you'll take advantage of that. The second thing is to mention our weekly schedule. Guy will talk again this Wednesday at 7 p.m. We have a Friday evening class at 7 p.m. led by students who will be talking about this very talk that Guy gave today. So we have a chance to work with it. And then always at the end of the month, we have a special gathering as well. Just want to let you know, it is one in which we have what we call a work party here at the foundation. And if you're in the area, you're invited to join us for it, to help us around the grounds and to help maintain this foundation and the work that we do. Part of that work party also involves a lunch and then a live stream discussion. And so even if you can't join us Saturday to help us with the chores, you can certainly join us Saturday at 1:30 p.m. The discussion with Guy will be live streamed on Facebook and YouTube. So just giving you a heads up about that, and hope that you will join us one way or the other. I think that's all that I have to share right now in terms of our announcements. We can move back to the main classroom, and we'll see if Guy is ready to begin our discussion. So, Guy, are you ready, or do you have anything else you'd like to say?
No, ready when you are, John.
Ready when I am. All right. We have had 3 written questions already come in, Guy, and I see a hand in the queue as well. So here is the first written question I've received. It came in from Mary, and she says, "Hello there. Hope everyone is well. My question for Guy for today is, what are your thoughts on how one can manifest a desired outcome, whether it be an event, a situation, a condition, for which the intention is, of course, a good one, authentic and pure, whether manifestation is related to being able to receive divine signs or messages, or through believing? Your thoughts on manifesting for a good purpose are welcome. Thank you."
There is a special hell that awaits so-called teachers who profess to know the way to the kingdom of heaven but do not. And because they do not, they believe that somehow or other, if they could just manifest whatever it is they've imagined will make them a heavenly creature, that they will know something of heaven. And so they sell you the ludicrous idea of the secret, how you can manifest for yourself the abundance that's missing from your life. The only thing missing from your life is intelligence. And that said, Mary, good God, please go and manifest everything that you want, so that you can discover you have the capacity as a human being to create. But before you can create the experience you want, you better realize that everything that you want comes with what you don't. And that's the great lesson in manifestation, is that I can manifest everything except peace. because my peace only stands as long as my fort doesn't get rained on. And when that becomes crystal clear to you, this process of unbecoming, no human being would unbecome. Do you have to understand? Unbecoming isn't you becoming something other than you are. It is shedding the illusion that you can become something other than you are. It's dying to that. When you die to something, something is born. But when you give life to something that is destined to die and you're identified with it, you will die with it when it goes. That's called suffering. There isn't 7 billion human beings on this journey. There is a journey manifested by 7 billion human beings. It's an illusion that you wake up. It's an illusion. You just stop dreaming. And then what is. And what is doesn't have to dream, because it's creation and creator. It is beginning and ending, the Alpha and the Omega. It is that. Anything that you imagine is that ain't that. You can quote me. But when you come to the end of unconscious, useless imagination, you will come to the end of unconscious, useless suffering. But you cannot come to the end of unconscious, useless imagination until you suffer, making it something that causes you that suffering. That's how it comes to an end. I can't make believe anymore. Remember that talk? I don't know, the last week or two. I don't want to dream anymore. I suffer because I make believe that I own something. Show me what you own. I suffer because I make believe that I'm someone special. And the more I make believe I'm someone special, the more God sends people to prove to me just how unspecial I am. Thank you, God. Not, oh God, why are you doing this to me? Oh God, I wish you'd done this a lot sooner, even though I cannot bear it. The future is make-believe. The future is make-believe. But in that future that's make-believe, I've got all the things I make-believe I have to have in that future when I get there. And I never get there. I'm always right here trying to figure out how to make the future better, or how to get rid of the past that's the problem. So Mary, manifest. Manifest. Do it. A sleeping human being is incapable of a good intention. He can identify with an intention that is always something he's imitated, but of himself he cannot come up with anything that's good, because as Christ himself said, why do you call me good? Only my Father is good. But I want to have good intentions because that makes me a good person. Do I need good intentions not to hurt you? Do I need good intentions not to hurt myself? Do I? You're kind of reticent to answer these questions. I don't need good intentions to love. I don't need good intentions to not cause people pain. I don't need good intentions to stop complaining. What I need is to be present to the fallen maker who has made all of these things in myself, so that I might continue to live out that life that is not life at all. And I surely don't need an intention for that. You want a real intention? Don't add anything to the moment. when something says what you just made has fallen apart, let it fall. Just reminded me of a song I wrote 50 years ago. Let's Let It All Fall Down, it was called. Wherever two of us, one must fall. Only one can remain. Long answer, Mary. On we go.
All right, Guy, we'll go to Stephen. He was the first hand in our queue, so good morning, Stephen.
Hello, John. Hello, Guy. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, it's been a while, but I'm excited about today's talk because things seem to be landing in a deeper way. And I loved the analogy so much. I played in refrigerator boxes, too, as a kid. And it made me think of, like, my beginner's Play-Doh cave, like my first Play-Doh's cave when I was a kid. And when you said a self-made man, it made me sort of take that analogy and run with it where, you know, we don't leave the cave. We just go into the room. We're still shackled, but we start painting the sun on the wall and saying, I made it myself. I'm outside. And then when we have these little moments of awakening, then we realize without shame or guilt or blame or anything that, we just painted a sun on the wall and called it being outside. And then we can just go and continue to explore the cave until we find a way outside. But I just love this so much, and thank you.
You're welcome, Steve. Not a bad analogy. Kate, I have the sound on the laptop so that people who are streaming can hear it. Do I need that? I don't need that. Okay, so that's gone. Okay, on we go. Come on.
All right, Guy, I'm going to come back on. We have a written question from Annette next, and she says, hi, Guy. Isn't it okay to buy things that we like and enjoy and work diligently to achieve our academic and professional goals as long as we are not so attached to an image or outcome?
I'll say it again. Go away. You see, we say that we understand the nature of God, of love. We don't understand the nature of love. If you're present, love will lead you to and through what love will then show you was only a fraction of itself. I discover through my love of music. I love music. Discovered a whole world. But the world of music and my love for it is one ray of sun from the entire solar system. It's just one aspect. And then it proves itself to be one aspect. I go, well, God, I thought that was it, but no, I guess that wasn't it. I need another goal. And if I have something that I love, I'll go do that. And I'll give myself to that. And if I give myself that to completely, I'll come to see eventually, you know what, I did. I learned quite a bit from that, but that wasn't what I was looking for. And when I finally see that I'm never going to find what I'm looking for, I will have found what I'm looking for, because I'll be on the end of the journey of becoming, and I will have gone through this process of unbecoming, which is what happens when you start dying to desire. You can't give up desire. That's ludicrous. Try to give up desire. That's desire desiring to be free of itself. It can't be done. But you can see that the path of desire, attachment, and identification is a dead end. You can see it. Not because you want to see it, but because you came to the end of the road. The road of becoming turns into the road of unbecoming if you're honest at the point where that happens. And it happens every time you run into that, oh no. That's when I need to stop trying to become and allow what I've been shown to help me unbecome the self that was identified with what I had made in make-believe. Dana's at the mic.
Good morning, my name is Dana. Boy, these talks are really blending in great, and I'm making lots of nice connections, so I popped out of my chair fast, and I hope what I've seen comes out because my heart's really pounding. It's very distracting. Super distracting. And I didn't bring my glasses, or did I? No. This is going to be tricky. But what you said, don't protect yourself. You know, there's no need. We need to see the fallen maker. And he said the light enters the darkness, and everything happens on its own. And, you know, likening back to a couple talks ago about in the end, change is effortless. And I don't know if it's like the path of negation, but we're not there doing something. We're seeing something and participating in something, so it's really quite effortless. We are just moving through it. And this is great too. You don't wake up, you just stop dreaming. Again, I'm not trying to stop dreaming. I'm
waking up.
I'm not trying to wake up. I just stop dreaming, and the rest takes care of itself. And the other day, I woke up, I think this applies, and I heard my mind says, I just want kindness, right? I heard that. And then another voice came in and said, do not seek kindness, be kindness, for if you do, you will never be without it. It's the same type of thing. There's no seeker, there's nothing, there's just what is, and kindness is kindness. So if I'm participating in kindness, it's forever here.
And that begins with understanding that the first unkindness is always dealt to myself by myself for making believe. I want to be seen as someone kind. I make believe I'm kind, and there is no one who is more unkind than people who pretend to be kind. Because when you push them to a certain point, out comes the make-believe world, the fear in it, essentially, which is desperation. Yeah, it's all good, Dana. To you, John.
All right, Guy. Nick Verzino is in the queue, so we'll go next to Nick. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, John. Thank you. And Guy, thank you. You know, listening, and just I realize the imagination business is just so much work. It's so much work, but you know, I be honest with you, I don't want to let go of it. It's comforting. I guess it makes me God, my own God, of course. The fear of that absolute vulnerability, it seems, is something that struck me. I guess my question
Hold on,
has to do with...
Wait 1 second. The fear of not making believe. Let it sink in, please. Make believe is fear. Make believe is fear, because it's not real. But I live in a real world where real things are unfolding for the purpose of the revelation of reality itself. Make believe is fear. I make believe I'm secure. Again, we're going to do this Wednesday night. Tune in. How do I make believe I'm secure? Because I make believe that if I get a lot of stuff, I'll be isolated. So I made believe that would do it, and it just compounds and builds until something happens and I can't even begin to suspect. The reason I'm a wreck is because I made a make-believe world. But I didn't make it. I didn't make it. The fallen maker, this unconscious nature conditioned over millennia that begins divided. You know, I didn't want to throw this in, but I'm going to say it. You know the story of Adam and Eve. What was the temptation for the knowledge of good and evil? What was it? I imagined I'd be more. I'd be a God unto myself if I knew. So that it started with desire, but the desire wasn't to be, how should I say, the desire was to become, and they already were. On we go.
Well, am I complete there? Well, Guy, can I just close with this? And I hear you, the fallen maker is always dangling a carrot. Always. And I get that. And I just want to, is there a place where in the divine where the exact same things are around me, because all things are new? I let go of my grubby hands off the thing, and the exact same things all become new. Is that a fair statement?
I didn't quite hear what he said. You kind of broke up a little bit, Nick.
Yeah, I'm breaking up on my ear too. Just all things new, letting go. The exact same things that I hold on to, so to speak, as I let go of them, my experience, they all become new to a certain extent as I let go of my grubby hands and agendas off them.
Okay, I got it. Yes. Look, how do Our language, our consciousness that is constructed around the actual structure of the words that we use. Everything for us is this idea of something becoming. It is new. You're just not there. We want things to become new. So if I let go of this, it'll become new. No, it's new, but you don't see it because you're holding on to what you made believe it was. That's what it means. Look, I have the experience of creation. It's new. I'm new. Or I continue to create my experience, which is always make-believe. One day I have to see, somehow this isn't quite working. And I got all these bones and old shirts and shoes and crud stuck in closets everywhere where I don't even know I'm still clinging to them. Have you ever marveled at the fact that you've got something in a closet somewhere that you haven't even seen for 30 years, and when you see it, I can't give that up. Nope, that's not going away, not yet, because one day I may get back to a 32-inch waist. Yeah, make believe. Linda's at the mic.
Hello, my name's Linda. A couple of weeks ago, Guy was talking about, and maybe even 3 weeks ago, I can't remember exactly, but he talked about the lies that we tell, and
Lies that we listen to and believe in.
yes,
We don't tell them.
right. The lies that we listen to and believe in. And I made that an exercise, and I've been working with that. And it is, I mean, all day long, instead of, even just, in a conversation with something, just a little bit of a twist.
Yes.
Of just wanting to make yourself,
Yes.
changing, the image of yourself, just a little bit, it's a
And
tweak.
then my make-believe world is right there. It's still there, and I've got you biting it lock, stock, and barrel.
Right, exactly, exactly. So it's just been such a good thing to catch that and to say exactly what happened, not what the mind wants me to tell to project a better image or what it thinks is a better image instead of just being real. So grateful for that.
It's not very flattering to know that you're a cartoon character, is it? Over to you, Cartoon John.
Okay. Cartoon John is right here. I have two written questions, Guy, and I've been looking forward to reading this next one. This one comes from Isabella, and she says, "So I don't need to slay my Jabberwocky? Just let it devour me? The fear remains that I will end up on the streets with nothing. How do I set goals without this monster in the darkness waiting to pounce?"
One insight at a time. Nothing more, nothing less. One lesson learned, even a tiny bit at a time. One revelation as to what is true versus what is not at a time. Everything else is make-believe. Don't you think if someone could tell you how to be secure, you would have learned by now? My father was a famous man in this world. I mean a famous man. Time magazine man of the whatever it was. He was a good man, my father, in the world. But he was a sleeping man and his love of being loved destroyed him. His love of wanting to be approved of destroyed him. It broke him. And he became dependent upon drugs and alcohol as a way to make believe that what he was doing and the suffering engendered by the choices he was given to make somehow proved that his make-believe world was real. His suffering proved his make-believe world real. You must learn to use your suffering to show you that the only thing real about make-believe is how useless the suffering is that is born out of it. On we go, John.
All right, Guy, our queue is wide open, but I do have one more written question. This came from Beatrice. She asks, could it be that being is the secret? When we don't care about the action is a fruit of being?
Yesterday, a few of the men and I were playing golf. And to put it mildly, none of us were playing that well. A bit of rust on us. And in particular, I shanked. And that means that I mishit a couple balls badly. And at one point, one of the men came to me and said, I have the secret. I said, I already know he's being facetious. I said, I can't wait for you to tell me. He said, don't look up. In golf, that's death. Now, everybody knows that's the secret, don't look up. So I go, thank God you told me that. Now, if it was simple as that, oh my God, I've got the secret. I'm never going to lift my head again. I'd be on the PGA, the old PGA, but if I just don't look up. God, why did I think of that myself? Now, why am I saying this, Beatrice? Because yes, being is the secret, but not being by becoming. Being by the negation of the make-believe being, of the me who believes that he or she can be just by wanting to be. All of that must come to an end, and then when all is said and done, being is just there. Nothing to try to do. I'm going to give a whole talk on this. Do you know how exhausting it is to spend your life trying to be something? It's hell. And in a manner of speaking, it's purgatory. Because you can try till the cows come home and you'll still be a bull. Still be bull? Never mind. Some things play, they don't. I looked at my wife and she goes, oi, oi, oi. She didn't even hear me, I don't think. On we go.
Guy, that's all I have. No hands in the queue and no more written questions, so I guess I turn it over to you.
How do I stop making believe? I have to stop it. But to stop it, I have to catch it. That's where self-knowledge comes in. Now I know something about make-believe because I didn't know that when I was trying to explain my suffering to myself that I was in a world of make-believe that would only perpetuate the pain of the make-believe world I'd been in. I have to simply do as Marcus Aurelius said, leave the first appearance the first appearance. Don't add anything to it, because if I do, I just entered the world of make-believe. See you Wednesday. We'll go deep and deeper. Bye.
Let's continue. Do you want to continue, Guy,
yeah.
with students in the room?
I don't know what's wrong with me. Yeah, thank you, John. When we end officially, we allow students to come up and speak. There's an exchange, and you're welcome to stay while we have this exchange. I always forget. Deborah has stepped up to the mic.
Hi, my name is Deborah. I have a small example of something that I had imagined for myself yesterday. So I had imagined that I needed a new golf skirt. this is really silly, I know. But I trotted down to the store and I was going to get myself a new golf skirt. And I don't even play golf that much.
He wanted a new golf skirt.
Right.
You know, Charlie has that.
Yeah, I think I saw him there.
Charlie was there shopping for a new golf skirt.
So anyways, went there, tried on some skirts, found one that I really liked. It was at a good price. And I walked out of the store without it. Because I knew that there was nothing that I could add to myself in that moment that was going to change this nature. Nothing is going to satisfy me or make me more whole than the moment already is. I'm not saying it very well, but I also saw that living and dying all happens in the same moment. It's not you die and then you live. It's all one thing. So I didn't get the skirt.
You might have played better golf if you did. You barely play. But I want to look good in my make-believe. Yeah, I put it on, I look out, oh, it's 86, it's too hot, I'm going to stay home.
So I was shopping for a golf skirt the other day. Bobby, no. So what you said, you know, most of you here know we play, and when things go bad in golf, the best thing to do is start laughing in a way. I mean, because we probably had the most fun we've had in a long time because we were all kind of in. Well, I'll give John a little kudos. He played a little bit better, but to say to Guy what I said, which was don't stand up or don't pull up, he knew that more than more than anything, and he hits one good shot good. And I said, see, that's all you need. The second part was calm down. And so those two things, it was just a joke. But then the next hole, he almost kills me with a shot. So, I mean, you can see that what you said to, I don't know who it was, but that being isn't something I'm just going to work on being. Because this is the process of negation, and that's the last thing that anybody wants, because you have to fully see yourself as you are. And you just said a couple quick things at the end, and I'll...
Take your time.
Is that, and this was a summation, it is so simple, but you have to find it for yourself, is that if you're present, love will lead you. I mean, there's everything is in that. But again, that's a positive statement, but you all look at me like, okay, I've heard that before. It's like, it is this negation. It's like, okay, so really what that means is find out where I'm not present. Find out where that fallen maker is always telling me, go down into this abyss. Find out where that is, and then love will lead you out. And, you know, the other thing is that if you don't wake up, you don't wake up, you just stop dreaming. And those two simple little, you don't need to extrapolate anything further. You know, if we have to see ourselves in the dream, that's the process of negation. We have to see that we don't love in this moment. I'm full of hate, I'm full of rage, I'm full of this and that. And that's the beginning of stepping out of that world of make-believe.
Beginning of unbecoming.
Of unbecoming. Yeah, thank you.
Like for those of you that do play golf, I know some people. I know one man. Every single time he hits a bad shot, and let's put it this way: he hits 1 out of 50 good shots. Every single time he hits a bad shot, I can't believe that. I swear to God, I can't believe that. You have a negative reaction. It is disbelief, isn't it? Like I say, we'll go into it Wednesday.
My name is Ellen, and I just want to make an observation. You received so many questions today, which is the same question you always get, which is basically, if I don't have a plan, if I don't try to create something for myself, you know, what's going to happen? Or is it wrong to do that? And I was thinking, and of course I have the same questions. But I remember one of the first things I heard when I entered the work was, the truth is the most practical thing in the world. But we don't believe that. We think we have to create our world for ourselves, that we have to make things happen. If I don't do it, then everything's going to fall apart. But it's all falling apart anyway because I'm trying to do something. But I think, as we all know, in those moments when we let go a little bit and let things happen, wait and see, all the beautiful principles we learn here, that there is an intelligence that knows more than we do, and things will develop as they're supposed to develop in spite of us. And just to keep remembering that, instead of that make-believe that I am in control, or I should be in control. We're just hurting ourselves.
Come on, John. King of the Mountain, we used to play when we were boys. You know what the problem of being king of the mountain is? Everybody wants to take you off of the mountain.
And they are legion.
Yes, they are.
So my name's John, and when I go to work in the morning, I often don't really have a whole lot to talk about, not in the mood for speaking. It's 6 in the morning. I'm just there getting ready and, not really into being social. But I don't feel when I walk in, I'm going to go in there and be antisocial either. But oftentimes everybody else is chatting about this and chatting about that. And there's a temptation, if I'm watching, to feel kind of isolated, like all these poor sleeping human beings, they're just, wide open conduit for whatever impulse is going through them, the instrument of whatever is going through, and I'm doing the exact same thing in that moment, you see. But you have to be, watchful to see that, or you can slip. It's a small step to sliding into, feeling sorry for yourself. Everybody else seems to be having a good time. I'm over here by myself, You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
I have to pay. So I was just, you have to be careful, because that can set the context for the rest of your entire day. That thing's chattering away like that. You took a misstep off the path of self-observation, and you just go wandering off into oblivion. And would I deliberately choose to hurt myself like that? I mean, in every moment I have to ask myself, would I deliberately want to listen to this that doesn't shut up? So it requires constant vigilance.
Yes, it does. And then you begin to understand all the old ideas in the old scripture, the idea of vigilance and arming yourself. All these things take on new meaning because you're engaged in that field where the fallen maker never stops trying to make something out of itself through you.
Hi, my name is Leah. You said in a talk last week that a number of people have referred to about we're always creating experience versus experiencing creation.
Yes.
It's so deep and so big, and I as soon as you said it, I can see where Leah's life has been creating experience, and the bigger and the better the experience you can create, the harder the fall.
Yes.
And the more energy, so again, the harder the fall, physically, energy, attention. And I've been watching, even as I, continue to slow my life down and slow down the experiences that Leah creates, they're still there. And I see how I wake up in the morning and my immediate thing is, what day am I going to create? And, there's something about that we're taught on manifesting my day. And if I do this at this time and this at this time, and I do the right exercises, and it's this whirlwind of creating a life, creating a day, creating an experience that it's constantly going on versus, and to this talk, it's all imagination. It's all thinking, it's all dreaming, all of it, instead of experiencing creation, which is, it can feel painful to experience creation.
It's part of creation. It's part of creation. The real teachings have always talked about you doing your share of your Father's suffering. It's always talked about it. But we want nothing to do with it, which is why we live in a make-believe world.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Wayne. Boy, this is just a fantastic talk. And, Guy, in pickleball, we play what's called King of the Court. So, in this...
Prince Wayne speaking.
All imagination. And what's really interesting about pickleball is everybody imagines how good they are. Because there's all this evaluation that's going on because we have this whole rating system. And everybody is in this belief that they're better than everybody else. And that goes for Wayne. Wayne is very competitive in that way. But what I've discovered is that I can learn from anybody that I'm playing with. And Wayne has complained before about playing somebody in that lower range. But there's always a lesson there. And that's what's so great about this work. You can take it into every condition that comes into us, and it's catching that reaction, that first resistance, and see where the mind takes me, seeing how this mind evaluates and measures everything, and there's this constant talking in this particular brain that I'm learning to see as it is, because as you said yesterday, I was talking about being seasick. The sickness is that I listen to this thing that's instead of just listening and seeing. So thanks for the talk. Great job.
Don't be afraid. You would never be shown the things that you know are true if what was timeless and true did not want you to see it for reasons that you've yet to understand. That's the real nature of faith. But faith without acts, without understanding that what I'm being given to see requires a completely new action, one that isn't make-believe, but one that brings an end to that make-believe self, I have to be willing to stand on that hill and say, not my will, but thy will be done. And then let me see one step at a time, one moment at a time, one revelation at a time, what it is that's actually taking place. You do that, and your success as a man or woman is guaranteed by the Spirit that puts you there in that moment for that purpose. Just like that. See you Wednesday.